Sonlin and Herwig Konings are founding partners of Security Token Group. All opinions expressed by them or guests on this podcast are solely their opinions and do not represent the views of Security Token Group or its subsidiaries. You should not take any opinion expressed on the show as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow any investment strategy. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Hello and welcome to the Security Token Show. I'm your host, Herwig Konings, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Sonlin. We're here in sunny Miami, Florida, and we've got a great show lined up for you today. The latest security token news, the latest security token offerings, the trading activity update, and of course our main topic, which today, Kyle, decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs. Could they be securities? We've got an interesting use case to talk about.
Absolutely.
But, of course, we need to tell you we are live, folks. We are live with our crowdfund for the media company behind this show, Security Token Market. We've got hundreds of people who have already pledged their interest, who want to participate in our very own security token offering. So you should definitely check that out if you're interested. You can check that on the link in bio.
Yep, we're testing the waters. That means you can sign up right now and pledge your interest. Over $3.5 million have been pledged so far. We're really trying to hit those milestones. So fantastic. Thanks for all the support. And let's dive into our episode, Herwig. We've got our top 5 pieces of news this week. Lead us off. What was number 1?
Number 1, folks, is that Credit Suisse, a major investment bank, is officially holding shares on the blockchain. And that is thanks to a company actually called Taurus, who has tokenized a company called Alaya, SA, and that company is on Ethereum, and it is being deposited, their shares, custodied, if you will, with Credit Suisse. So that's a pretty big deal, folks. This means that adoption is consistently happening. These banks are cozying up to this technology, and they're understanding the applications of security tokens and blockchain.
Switzerland, yet again, a leader in this industry, doing awesome work. Security tokens are global.
Yes, they are.
Moving into number 2, we have the infrastructure bill from the US, which had a controversial tax implication for digital assets. Now, this had US bipartisan support from both parties here in the States in the House of Representatives, who basically came out with an infrastructure bill that had a caveat inside around any transaction over $10,000, which can actually apply to digital assets. And essentially what happens is if you make a transaction of over $10,000 in any type of asset, you need to KYC yourself, you need to report it, as well as give your social security number for every transaction within 15 days of the transaction occurring. You got to report that to the IRS, or you face potentially a felony, which can include jail time. So this is a pretty serious and hefty implication. Now the thing is, we aren't exactly sure how it will be enforced. It's more about what it could potentially mean for a lot of these transactions. We know that it could also apply not only to crypto, but to security tokens and to NFTs. So, definitely keep your eyes peeled and be careful.
This is one of those 40-year-old laws that who knows, it's obviously not ready for today's age. And lawyers have even pointed out this might make, cryptocurrency transactions nearly impossible to happen. Obviously, $10,000 is not exactly that big when it comes to a lot of these now crazy expensive NFTs and tokens and all these other things that are rising high in price with all these all-time highs. Number 3, Kyle, big industry news out of InvestaX and Smartlands. These are 2 major security token companies. The difference is that InvestaX, their turf is Singapore, and Smartlands, their turf is the UK. And now they have come together and said, we are going to connect these jurisdictions. Both companies focus on tokenizing real estate, and now they're going to be able to bridge these 2 together. These new, these geographies and these new investors will be able to presumably access each other's deals. So that's an awesome partnership. Love to see that industry collaboration.
Smartlands has tokenized multiple real estate properties in the United Kingdom as well as other countries. Their first one was in 2019, so they've been in this space for a little while. InvestaX, meanwhile, has over 28 private equities that they have actually issued, and they have now on their platform as well. So these are 2 powerhouses that are looking to come together, share some industry deal flow, and bring things to market. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Moving into number 4, we've got Singapore is exploring a CBDC. The MAS, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, which is the SEC equivalent in that jurisdiction, has basically come out with Project Orchid, exploring how to launch a central bank digital currency. They've done many tests in the past, and it's yet another exploration from another leading financial economy into central bank digital currencies. They cite some of the benefits which we know in terms of transparency, in terms of reduced transaction costs and some of these great things. But maybe on the other side, one of the main concerns is actually central bank liquidity and able to be providing loans and lending to their people in terms of not having enough cash on hand since they're going to be all digital. So one of the potential solutions is actually going to be capping how many digital dollars you can have as opposed to the traditional method. This seems like potentially they're putting on some training wheels to test this thing out, but we know the real future, it probably will eventually become fully digitized.
That's what we think, but they did note that they are not in any urgency to get this out there. This is obviously a big deal as a retail CBDC. That means any consumer can use it. That's obviously not an easy rollout per their research project here that they're going to find out. And who knows where this pressure might be coming from? Is it China? We noted last week that there's over 140 million accounts already signed up using their e-yuan, their digital yuan. And now, number 5, it's been reported that they have unveiled a machine, presumably some kind of an ATM-like feature, that can now convert foreign fiat into this digital yuan. So they are coming for all of our dollars now. In fact, they support 17 different foreign currencies that they will now be able to essentially allow actually foreigners as well. They can link their passport, go ahead and take their, their pound or their euro, and go ahead and convert it into this digital yuan while they go around China and potentially use this digital currency. And that's a big deal because I'm noting here that there's almost $10 billion in digital yuan transactions already since this has been rolled out for almost 2 years or so.
So this fiat conversion is set to launch during the Beijing Olympics in 2022, and they will be unveiling this digital currency to the world. And what better time than to have every nation coming together in their country? It's going to be fascinating to see how it's received and the pressure, as you noted, that it might put on other countries that are exploring a CBDC for their own currencies.
And with that, Kyle, I think we can move on to the rest of the industry news with Jessica.
Let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Jessica Burns, and I'm back with this week's industry updates. First, we have the governor of Russia's central bank, which said that the country will have a prototype of its digital ruble platform ready by early 2022, and it will roll out for trial use next year before making a final decision on whether or not it will release its own digital currency. Russian lawmakers will reportedly begin working on the legal adjustments needed to implement the digital ruble plan to accommodate the digital currency. These legal modifications would begin as soon as the central bank's digital currency, the CBDC trial, is implemented. The Bank of England and the UK Finance Ministry are planning to launch a consultation on the possible rollout of a central bank digital currency starting in 2022. The Bank of England announced the digital pound consultant with HM Treasury would consider design features, benefits, and implications for users and business, as well as other relevant issues. The results of the 2022 consultation will determine whether UK authorities intend to move forward with a central bank digital currency or a CBDC. While many countries with the world's largest economies have yet to launch a CBDC, some have begun pilot programs. China's digital yuan rollout continues with trials in multiple regions, with the country's central bank reporting there were more than 140 million individual accounts holding the digital currency as of October 2021. SEC Commissioner Caroline Crenshaw has highlighted the benefits of decentralized finance, or DeFi, while warning of the dangers of failing to embrace the protective regulatory framework. The article, DeFi Risks, Regulations, and Opportunities, is the first in the inaugural issue of the International Journal of Blockchain Law. In it, Crenshaw outlines her belief that DeFi community must address issues with transparency and more while continuing to comply with the SEC rules. For more news in the DeFi world, it's been reported that DeFi can be 100 times larger than today in less than 5 years. The decentralized finance sector currently represents only 0.1% of the maximum potential, and its significant growth is inevitable. Decentralized finance is a natural product made possible by blockchain technology and has the right and ready infrastructure to propel the technology into a bigger playing field. The space has grown by leaps and bounds since the Ethereum network went live in July 2015, allowing Ethereum network transactions to grow 33 times to 1.2 million per day, which is currently, and blockchain transactions that would exceed millions per day if other chains were included. DeFi is only 3 years old, with services that become mainstream for the crypto community in 2021 DeFi summer. Lending platforms together with decentralized exchanges such as Uniswap and Curve cemented their positions as the market-leading protocols with the first mover advantage. The DeFi builder community has grown stronger in this new cycle, with more programmers from the traditional startups and big tech joining the blockchain and DeFi scene, and this can only mean that we have more resources than ever to grow the space and technology. Back in the STM offices, the talented Peter Gaffney continues to give us token gold with this week's issue of Tokenize This, where he talks about tokenizing capital calls. You can find this article and more on our website. That's all I got for you this week. Now let's go over to John and get the latest from STO Updates.
Thanks for the industry updates, Jessica. Welcome back, tokenizers, to my side of the blockchain. We're going to go ahead and dive right into your STO updates. First up, we have Brigshun, a research and development company in the sustainable battery, EV, and alternative energy space. They're best known for creating a vehicle-powered battery that broke the Guinness World Record back in 2015 for powering an electric bus for the longest distance ever on a single charge. They currently have a battery in its final stage of industrialization. Now, Brigshun plans to use electric vehicles for wireless communication, aerospace, marine engineering, mobile machinery, and AI, all to reduce pollution and combat climate change. The company is also looking to make strides in commercial aerial drone technology. The Brigshun offering will be listed on the Crypto SX exchange with a professional appraisal for the company already at $2 billion valuation. Now, there are rumors that the token will be well below what the company valuation is, which means early investors have a good chance to see some meaningful upside. Next up, we have Italian hypercar company Byzanti Automobile raising funds through an STO on the US-based marketplace Realtize. Byzanti Automobile is a 100% made in Italy racing car manufacturer, and they're also a collector. The company has already produced about 15 cars. They're highly sought after by track lovers and collectors. Now, Byzanti is targeting a worldwide market for investors for its products, especially in Europe, Asia, Saudi Arabia, and the US. The MZZ token, which is the name of the security token, will allow retail and professional investors to actively take part in the company's growth. Now, the plan is to raise $2.25 million with this offering, and they're going to use it to speed up the production of several Byzanti pre-orders. Now, I have an update on our very own STO right here at Security Token Market. The total amount pledged is up to $3.5 million, and we've received that from 565 potential investors. Now, we haven't taken any money yet, and this is just the amount of money we've received in pledges from those that have actually reserved spots. Now, we hope to max out this offering once it goes live, so to make sure you have access, please go reserve your spot now. And finally, if you missed last week's Token Board Journal, then give it a quick read. In it, I covered the litigation finance industry, a topic Herwig and Cal covered on last week's Security Token Show. But in this journal, I go into a bit more detail and even mention some companies that have live STOs right now, which provide investors exposure to lawsuit winnings. This is stuff you don't have access to unless you're a lawyer or a plaintiff. So take advantage of being a third party. But make sure you don't miss next week's journal drop. I'm pretty sure it'll be a fun, interesting, profitable topic. But that's it for me, John Pittman, the Token Boy. Over to Keith, and I'll see you on the other side of the blockchain.
Welcome back to another weekly secondary market trading segment. As always, all news and pricing data is sourced from stomarket.com. Today, the total security token market cap is at $1.06 billion, which is a decline of about 8.6% from $1.16 billion last week. Mount Pelerin, after a huge rise, is pulling back this week as it makes its run for the top 15 security tokens by market cap. The MPS token is currently at $6.91 after reaching a high of $9.48 earlier this week. Currently, the token is down 20% from $8.64 that we recorded on the last show. Volume is down 6% at 145,000 from 155,000 last week. Overstock in the OSTKO token is trading a bit lower this week. The token is sitting at $81.50 at the time of recording, a slight retracement from $83 last week. Volume is creeping back up. The token actually reached 5 million in volume this week after posting 4.2 million last time around, which is an increase of 18% in volume. Overstock is maintaining its number one spot for the time being as the number two competitor, INX, continues to slide. On that note, INX is actually down to $1.95 at the time of recording, which is a decrease of 26% from last week when the token was trading at $2.65. Weekly trading volume has been rather consistent. This week it reached 2.4 million, which is down around 4% from 2.5 million last week. The INX market cap is 241 million, while OSTKO's market cap is 353 million, so the gap between the top two security tokens is widening this time around. T0 is up a bit this week. It's sitting at $4.10 from $3.96 the week prior. It's a rise of about 3.5%, while trading volume slowly creeps its way up in unison. Weekly trading volume for the token is at 1.9 million from the 1.8 million last week, a rise of 5.5%. Blockchain Capital and the BCAP token experienced some intense volatility this week. The VC firm's token went up to as high as $13 and fell back down to its previous closing price of $9 last week, while the weekly trading volume tanked. This week, BCAP posted 28,000 in weekly trading volume from 58,000 last week. That's a decline of just over 50% in weekly trading volume. Exodus and Exod token is falling back down from its recovery last week. The token is sitting at $17.50 from $20 at the time of recording last week. Weekly trading volume is actually at 186,000, which is down 12% from 212,000 last week. Moving into our section on tokenized stocks for the week, we have Grayscale tokenized shares back up in volume for the week on FTX. Weekly trading volume for Grayscale on the booming cryptocurrency exchange has been ranging a bit and is currently sitting at 55 million from 52 million last week. It's a rise of about 5.5% again. Tesla tokenized shares are continuing to rise in volume. Weekly trading volume for the tokenized shares is at 29 million from 21 million the week prior. That's another increase of 38% this week. Meanwhile, the trading of Alibaba tokenized shares are pulling back in volume by quite a bit. This week, Baba shares reached 5.4 million in weekly trading volume on FTX compared to 7.3 million posted last week, indicating a decrease of 26%. With that said, it's been another fun week in the markets. As always, do your own research and hit me up on Twitter at KeithDLT. Send me all your hot takes. See you next week.
Wakey, wakey. Welcome to Inside the Metaverse with your host, Yves Van Cole. We go over the top breaking news related to the Metaverse weekly. I'd like to start off with Sky Mavis launching the Ronin mobile wallet. And I can just tell you, it is about time. The mobile wallet will allow all players, specifically those in developing countries, to gain economic access to the Ronin ecosystem. Because, most of these communities use their mobile phones to play Axie Infinity. Now, this means that they can now easily have control over their Smooth Love Potion, Axie, Ethereum, and RON holdings on the Ethereum side chain. And on to the next one we go. This is something that gets me really excited because this is another show of mainstream attention towards blockchain. Instead, the instant messaging platform Discord may soon launch support for MetaMask and Wallet Connect integrations, as evidenced by a pre-release screenshot shared by the platform CEO, Jason Citron. A portion of the Discord community raised concerns about the update while threatening to cancel its Nitro subscriptions. One thing I can say about that is you guys can hate all you want, but he didn't become the CEO by being an idiot. The new internet is coming, and that is something a lot of people need to brace themselves for. And speaking of not smart moves, Steam, who recently banned blockchain gaming, might have to rethink, maybe because one of the largest gaming messaging platforms is kind of getting into blockchain. Hey, the world is changing. You either hop on or fall off. One of the first metaverses, and if you're a nerd like me, watched it growing up. Warner Brothers to launch the Matrix NFT avatar project, with the metaverse and virtual world being what's hot. Warner Brothers seized the opportunity to announce their first generative NFT avatar project based on the movie franchise, The Matrix. Starting from November 30th, they will sell 100,000 NFT characters for $50 each. And last but not least, something that I think is a pivotal step towards the right direction is the Sandbox partnering with Vulcanverse. They integrated with each other, and the blockchain is all about interoperability. We have these worlds now, but one day these worlds will all be linked. So now you can farm Charon in Sandbox and play as a sand wizard and Vulcan Forge. That was Inside the Metaverse with your host, Yves Van Cole.
Welcome back to the main topic of episode 117 of the Security Token Show. We're actually going to be talking today about decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs. Probably you may have heard of them. They're kind of a newer thing, but they've been around. It's a cool technology. We're going to break it down. But the thing is, they could be also securities, and we're going to make sure that you understand when that's possible. But before we do, we have to get into our companies of the week, where, of course, Kyle and I, we each select one company that we thought was making the biggest move in the space last week. Kyle, who do you have for us?
So my company of the week is one of the largest financial institutions in the US who did something pretty groundbreaking just this week, and that is the DTCC. They represent almost all of the settlement and clearing of securities, or certainly one of the largest institutions that oversees the settlement and clearing process for all secured securities, the Depository Trust and Clearing Committee, or commission. So basically, what happens here is you have an exchange or an ATS or a marketplace that trades these assets, and they essentially file those transactions to the DTCC, who then essentially stamps it and approves that these things are all kosher. And so the DTCC just recently came out with a white paper that fully explores the possibility of security tokens. And yes, they actually use the word security tokens as an opportunity for the business. They want to digitize privately held stocks. This includes security tokens via Reg D and Reg A+, which we've covered here many times on the show, the two main ways that you could raise a ton of money here in the United States privately through those fundraising exemptions. This includes issuance, distribution, and secondary trading of these assets. And they note that the benefits here are to automate the process, to cut costs, and they actually may support funds, real estate products, loans, and other exotic assets in the future. The DTCC posted it's a 7-page white paper. I'd highly recommend you checking it out because it's one of the most institutional pieces of research we have recently that's come out around tokenization. And really shout out to a huge regulatory body in really embracing this technology and supporting security tokens.
I mean, the DTCC is one of the biggest companies in the traditional Wall Street world. So that's a huge deal, Kyle. They settle quadrillions of securities every year, folks. That is no joke. Security tokens will embrace it. And now they're getting into the private markets game, which is even bigger than the public markets, which is where they're traditionally focused. So I love it. That's a great choice, Kyle.
Fascinating to see them getting into the private markets as opposed to the public. How about you?
As mentioned earlier on the show, we have a lot of innovation going on in Switzerland, and Sygnum Bank is one of those companies. I'm choosing them as my company of the week because they announced recently, or apparently let it slip, that they have actually tokenized a Picasso. Wow, big deal. The Filet à Barret, hopefully I said that right, but this is a 20th century masterpiece, and apparently over 50 different people now fractionally co-own it. And that's thanks to, of course, tokenization, which is the big deal behind Sygnum, or of course the tokenization provider, but also a trading platform. They actually said you can trade it on the Synex, the SYGN exchange. So you can actually go and purchase this Picasso as well. So that's a pretty cool deal. They call them art security tokens, and especially given the recent trend of NFTs, I think this is really cool. It's a really big deal. It's a great security token, and that's why Sygnum is my company of the week.
This is, I think, a great use case. I mean, we know equities, we know real estate, but tokenized shares of art is a fascinating use case, one that you wouldn't get exposure to in traditional opportunities in the traditional market. You have to buy the whole thing yourself or none at all. With tokenization, it brings that opportunity to the masses.
Yes, it does. And with that, Kyle, I think we can dive right into our main topic. What is a decentralized autonomous organization? Kyle, you want to explain?
Sure. So this idea of a decentralized autonomous organization comes from the blockchain scene and smart contract enforcement. So essentially, we have a lot of these protocols or a lot of these blockchain-based solutions that are really just lines of code that execute transactions or allow you to do certain things that don't require manual oversight. We've talked about Uniswap being a decentralized exchange where you could have any type of asset and swap that with a different asset that doesn't require any middlemen. It actually can just be done with a smart contract that they were able to build. We see many examples like this. You even see examples like MakerDAO, which is essentially they've issued the Dowse stablecoin, which represents a one-to-one stablecoin with the US dollar. And this is essentially a decentralized autonomous organization because all of the decisions of the protocol and of the changes that can be made to that platform actually come through the share of governance tokens. So instead of having a centralized party making the decisions and therefore profiting off of this opportunity, instead they share the voting rights with the rest of the community. And so this idea of a decentralized autonomous organization allows for the community to control the things that they use, which tends to align the incentives with those that actually use those things, being the ones that are more incentivized to want to have control and decide the operations for the organization. And so this is something that was very prevalent in the crypto and blockchain space. And recently we saw Wyoming become very forward thinking and actually embracing the DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, DAO, embracing the DAO as a legal entity. So they actually created a registration process where you can file articles of incorporation. You can actually have your documents around creating a legitimately recognized DAO by the state of Wyoming and be licensed in order to do that and actually have participation with your community. So this has been fascinating. We've seen some examples of these come out, and now there's a pathway into a legally compliant DAO, and that's kind of where we kick off our conversation today.
I think that's a huge deal, right, folks? We are talking about crypto, which is decentralized by nature. You got a lot of developers all around the world working together to make something happen. So naturally, you do have some form of organization, but the autonomous part is where you mentioned this governance token or smart contracts, leveraging blockchain technology to automate a lot of these processes and to be able to participate, just like you said with Uniswap or some of these other decentralized protocols. The community needs to weigh in and they need to vote, and they have these governance tokens to do that, and thus they can power this decentralized autonomous organization, this DAO. And I guess Wyoming has really been forward thinking here, recognizing that people still need to leverage real world stuff like bank accounts and things like that. And in this case, you do need to register a business of some kind, an LLC usually, to go ahead and get recognized as the organization behind it. Now, of course, someone is managing that, so some people think that there's a lack of potential true decentralization, but at the end of the day, this concept of being able to launch an organization that's decentralized and you can work together and power it through technology thanks to the blockchain, now that for sure is majorly disruptive. And of course, as a result, we are now going to step on the lines of securities laws.
Absolutely.
We recently saw that the SEC came out and paused 2 different tokens that were part of a DAO that was registered in Wyoming. Kyle, you want to break this one down for us?
Sure. So just like we were talking about, what we've seen, I think, is the SEC, of course, isn't just going to let everything fly here, right? Just because we now can register as a DAO doesn't mean you're able to get away with everything that you want. You can't just say, oh, it's autonomous, it's, I'm removed of liability. That's just not how it works in the real world. And so in this example, what we have is actually we need to differentiate this idea of creating a DAO, which is the entity that represents or is the public-facing entity of the assets that are represented by that organization, and the potential token or tokens that are used within the system. And so yes, you can create a DAO, maybe not be able to create any type of token or thing that you want to issue through it. If it looks like a security and smells like a security, you may have to follow securities laws. And that's kind of what happened here. So basically, you've got a company called American Crypto Fed, which is quite a name, and they issued 2 tokens, the Ducat and the Lock tokens, and they claimed that these were utility tokens, used inside of the platform, inside of their organization, potentially for voting, for transactions, and some other things.
The so-called governance tokens.
Exactly right. Now, they filed an S1, which is a public registration form to register as a security, but they said, no, we're going to file this as a public offering, but we are not recognizing it as a security. We are recognizing it as a utility token. Therefore, it doesn't have any actual asset that's represented or underlying to this digital token. And the SEC said, not so fast. I don't think that's really how it works. You can't just say that you're publicly registered and you're following all these laws, but you can just issue whatever type of token you want. And so they basically shut those down and said, this is not going to work. You are misleading or potentially misleading those that may be investing in your asset because they think that they're getting a potential part of this company or this organization, even though, again, DAOs maybe or may don't have a cap table or however those things are structured. I think that the SEC and everyone are still trying to work some of those things out. But we saw some interesting fireworks going on here.
Yeah, needless to say, of course, the CEO fired back and even wrote to CoinDesk saying that, this is just the lack of a clear, transparent, lack of a framework for crypto assets. And in this case, them trying to be compliant, perhaps by filing an S1 and becoming a public security, might have been going a little overboard, given the fact that, of course, now they need to comply with a lot of different regulation. Like you said, they need to now have audited financials, need to have a lot of this information that maybe this DAO didn't have. Regardless, the SEC did say that they misled investors and that they didn't have accurate documentation, and so therefore they paused these tokens. They are now going over to an administrative law judge to see if they'll actually be suspended or full-on denied from moving forward.
Yeah, it's fascinating, especially, again, if you're talking about an autonomous organization, one that doesn't have centralized control. I understand the perspective of the fact that we need some way to create decisions inside of the company, and with DAOs, we've seen the governance token model can be very effective when applied correctly. So you can see how American Crypto Fed may be trying to make that angle, but again, a two-token model, I'm not fully sure exactly how those tokens are represented inside of the organization, but we would expect that an S1 filing as a security, it does start to get very confusing. If you're going to file a public document claiming and recognizing yourself as a security, I can see how that would be confusing to an investor who's looking and expecting to have a security. But they make a good point. Maybe there should be some type of other regulation for establishing compliant assets that don't fit the security token.
And that's the lesson here, folks. Look at those governance tokens. See what people are offering you. When they start to have rewards and yield and other type of things, that might make it a security. Regardless, it's very important that it may not be, or it definitely can't be a security, because that might actually destroy the organization. Right now, they have to do all these other things in order to comply, which American Fed, I guess, was trying to do, but apparently the SEC said they didn't do it so well. So that's very interesting. There are successful use cases of governance tokens out there that are not securities, so this definitely is possible. But folks, now we have to check it out and understand, in some cases, especially as people now push these boundaries and Wyoming says, come register your DAOs, watch out, because some of these governance tokens, they just might be securities.
So to answer the ultimate question here, can DAOs be security tokens? The answer is overwhelmingly yes. You could potentially have voting rights in the form of a board seat or something else that allows for those voting shares while still allowing a potential revenue share or some underlying asset that's also given to those shareholders. You could have dividends that come off of the protocol or percentages of transaction fees. There's many ways you could attach that. It would come with some different pieces to it, and it would act a little bit differently than it may if it was a utility token or a governance token, but you could absolutely do it, and it may actually be even more exciting for investors if they could have that underlying asset to anchor the price. So definitely don't consider being a security a bad thing. It could actually make your governance token even more exciting and more attractive for an investor passionate about the project.
Absolutely, Kyle. And with that, I think we can wrap up this show. Of course, you can always reach out to us. We're available on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We love questions. We love feedback. We love suggestions. We love hearing all the latest news from you. So please send it our way. And of course, check out the Security Token Market blog. You can check out stomarket.com for all the latest trading news. And of course, the What's Drippin' newsletter comes to you every Monday. So hopefully you enjoyed this show, and we'll see you next Monday.
Talk to you next week. Happy tokenizing.